My topic today is the power of truth. Of course, the power of truth is spiritual power. And so we'll dive into that and explore what that means. I like to begin with a poem by Emily Dickinson. Emily Dickinson wrote, "We never know how high we are till we are called to rise. We never know how high we are till we are called to rise. And then, if we are true to plan, our statures touch the skies." Then, if we are true to plan, our statures touch the skies. I really appreciated coming across this poem last week. A couple of things about it I really like. First, that she says, we never know how high we are. She doesn't say, we never know how high we can be, but she pierces right to the heart of reality of the truth of our being. She says, we never know how high we are. That we never really fully realize the truth of what we are as spiritual beings till we are called to rise. So it's not that our height is something that will be, it is something that is already, but it is expressed when we're called upon. And then she says, and then if we are true to plan, our statures touch the sky. So she's saying what we as spiritual practitioners know, that the plan is for us to shine, for us to rise. That's the divine plan and purpose for our lives, because we are that infinite divine consciousness. And the plan is for us to realize that and to express it. So that's a lovely poem from Emily Dickinson. And this time of great challenge, of great stress and uncertainty in these satsangs I have been exploring with you, the spiritual resources that we can draw upon to help us rise. Because I know it's so important that during this time, we don't just do our best to wait it out or to endure, but we actually find out how to rise. I hope you have had some experiences in your life that have been positively transformative for you. I'm guessing you have, and I have, and there's a few that are just have been indelible for me and have affected the trajectory of my life and the way that I live. And one of those encounters for me was a meeting that I had with Ela Gandhi, granddaughter of Mahatma Gandhi. And it was a personal meeting, a private time after we had been in a public meeting for much of the day. It was late in the evening, and just the two of us were there. And she was sharing with me about her life story. And of course, we're familiar with the assassination of her beloved grandfather. But not everyone knows, of course, of her own history as an advocate for peace, as an amazing woman of peace and principle, and how she struggled in South Africa, her home, during the time of apartheid, to bring forth that message of truth. And during that time, she was placed under house arrest for several years, and her own beloved son was murdered. And, as I listened to her tell me about, what it was like, I really didn't know what to say. But I had a question in my heart, which was, how did she do it? How did she rise? How did she endure such a time and such a challenge? And she told me then that those in power had great wealth, they had great resources. She said, but we were never discouraged because we had spiritual resources. We never lost hope because we had spiritual resources. And of course, that's what we most need now. We need, of course, to have faith and to have strength in this time of adversity and uncertainty. But we need spiritual resources not only for that. We need spiritual resources now because we are in a time not just of surviving, but of building our world anew. And it's going to take more than science and economics, more than medicine and politics to do that. It's going to take spiritual resources. So I want to start by reading from Elaji's grandfather, Mahatma Gandhi. I have this little book, the Mohan Mala, that I have loved so much into being that I have loved the cover of the book off. This is from his writings. He wrote, I do dimly perceive that while everything around me is ever changing, ever dying, there is underlying all that change, a living power, which he has capitalized, a living power that is changeless, that holds all together, that creates, dissolves, and recreates. That informing power or spirit is God. And since nothing else I see merely through the senses can or will persist, God alone is. And is this power benevolent or malevolent? I see it is purely benevolent. For I can see that in the midst of death, life persists. In the midst of untruth, truth persists. In the midst of darkness, light persists. Hence, I gather that God is life, God is truth, God is light, God is love, God is the supreme good. In the previous weeks, I've been exploring with you how we draw up and realize and actualize our divine capacities or potentials, which when realized become a source of strength for us. So we started off with looking at stability, how we can find stability through understanding the truth of our being in uncertain times and be able to hold to that while everything around us is changing. Then we looked at the creative power of the universe, the creative power of our imagination and how that can be sourced. We looked at the power of the mind and the power of will, which can be a fierce determination for us at this time to awaken and to be transformed. And last week, we were looking at the spiritual power of love and how love can free us from fear. And today, I want to explore with you the soul power of truth. I want to begin with a little phrase about truth from Chaturvedi Badrinath, who's written a commentary on the Mahabharata that I really appreciate. He wrote, "The essence of truth is not in knowing alone, but in living as well. The essence of truth is not in knowing alone, but in living as well. The essence of truth is living in right relationship with oneself and with the other." And then in his commentary on the Mahabharata, he has included many verses from it. So I would like to share those verses with you. Truth is the reality pervading the universe. Truth is true austerity. It is truth that sustains the world. I want you to think about the times we are living in and our relationship to truth and how we're experiencing it and how important it is as you listen to these verses. Truth is the reality pervading the universe. Truth is true austerity. It is truth that sustains the world. It is through truth that one gains all that is heaven. Untruth is darkness, and darkness takes people down. In the confusion of perceptions, people are unable to see the light. What is truth is also what sustains and enhances life. What sustains and enhances is also light. What debases and degrades is darkness, and what is darkness is pain and suffering. There is no greater dharma than truth, no worse demerit than untruth. In truth alone is dharma preserved. Let not truth therefore be obscured. Just as the boat takes us across the sea, truth is the means to all that is heaven. There is no greater sharing, no greater gift than truth. Neither is there a greater self-discipline than truth. It is good to speak the truth. Far greater than truth there is nothing. For greater than truth there is nothing. Truth sustains everything, and it is in truth that everything has its foundation. Of course, truth as the foundation of life is referring to truth as ultimate reality, the truth of our being, absolute truth of our being, which is unchanging, pure existence being. And then relative truth is all of that that is subject to change. And when we think about spiritual truth as the truth of life, the truth of our being, we understand that as existence. Existence is one. There's one life, one power, one presence. And so it makes sense that right relationship with the truth of that is right relationship to the truth of our own heart, our own soul, living true to that, speaking that truth, actualizing that truth, being in right relationship to others. That is the truth of being. Sanskrit word for truth is satya. At the root of satya is the word sat, which means existence or reality or being. Truth is associated with the fifth chakra, naturally. The throat chakra has to do with living and speaking the truth. Last week we were talking about the fourth chakra, the heart chakra, talking about love and the power of love to have us overcome fear. And so you might think about this relationship between the heart chakra and the throat chakra as this throat center, this center of truth in the subtle body, as the way in which love becomes real, becomes actualized for us. At the heart center, we become a disciple. We become a disciple of love. And at the fifth center, really, I think, is the way of becoming love itself by lining up our thought, our speech, our action, living the truth that life is one, that we cannot live in isolation. We might be sheltering in place, but we are not separate. from any other being in this universe. And living in truth is living with the awareness of that. There are powers that are associated, with the chakras. And at the fifth center, the center of truth, we come to think about leadership and about mentorship. And as people think about this, truth at the throat center and becoming a mentor, often the thought goes to, well, how do I mentor others? How can I be a leader? How can I teach? But I think the deepest understanding of truth at the fifth center, at the throat center, is the evolution of our spiritual maturity, in which we have become an effective mentor to our own self. Meaning that we have strengthened our ability to teach ourselves and to guide ourselves, to keep ourselves from following the lower drives that have to do with the ego-based motivations, and to direct ourselves towards following our divine inclinations. So at the fifth level, this level of truth, think about what it is to be a mentor to yourself in the moments where it really counts, in the hot moments, the moments where you're stressed. Think about the inner guru being awakened and how you come to bring that living truth of your being, of your spiritual understanding, how you bring it to bear in every situation, heeding the guidance of your higher self. The truth, of course, is expressed as we live our deepest values and as they're expressed in our life. And first, of course, we do this through discipline, through making a course correction. When we find ourselves pulled down, and know that we're going down a road with our action or with our speech that is not in harmony with the highest truth of our being, then we make a course correction and we choose another word. Perhaps we choose silence, we choose another behavior. But as the heart and mind become purified, then truth, the expression of truth as love, becomes spontaneous because it is consistent. It is in harmony with the truth of what we are. So when nothing impedes it, the truth of what we are is expressed as divine love in action. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I had to make a note to myself. I'm sure you do that too, note to self. And my note to self said, Friday night promises must become Wednesday realities. Friday night promises must become Wednesday realities. And that's because in our home, where my husband Marnat and I are sheltering together, we have a practice every Friday night where we say our prayers and we offer our gratitude for all of the gifts of our life, and for our family and for everything we've been given. It's a time of Sabbath practice for us. And we have made it our commitment during that Sabbath time every Friday night to renew our wedding vows, our marriage vows, and to recommit our love for one another. And it's always a beautiful time and an occasion to tell one another how much we love each other. And so I noticed during this sheltering in place, of course, and during this very challenging time that I'm sure it is for many, if not all of you, that the pressure runs high. And so we had our Friday night vows of love and dedication to one another. But by Wednesday, I was not so sure. and I don't mean that I wasn't so sure about my love, but I wasn't so sure about my capacity to carry it out, because the stress was running high in our small little house. And so I was reminded that our Sabbath vows and our expressions of love and gratitude must be actualized all the way through the week. So the inspiration that we have today on Sunday should be actualized all during the week. But when Amarnath and I talked about it, we were reminiscing about the tool that we were given when we were married. We had sent a wedding invitation to Amarnath's guru, Baba Haridas, and he wrote us a lovely letter. And so I'm going to share that letter with you. He said, "You are getting married on the 18th of June, 1995. Congratulations." And then he wrote, "When two people with complementary samskaras get together, they are tied down in all levels of life." Now, I don't think he had a premonition of sheltering in place, but it feels like being tied down together in all levels of life. They live together with lifelong commitment. And so, of course, he meant, here is the possibility that you have. But then he told us how to do it. He said, "May God bless you both. Row the boat of life in the world with the oars of the virtues and attain peace and happiness together. May God bless you. Row the boat of life in the world with the oars of the virtues and attain peace and happiness together." So we see the potential for love, and we understand living the truth of that as the way and following it. So may this be a week for us of making that journey from the heart center to the throat, to speaking, thinking, acting in truth, the truth that God is our life, love is our life. Om Shanti.